Hey there. Hey, this is Pam Perry, and we are here for another Speakers Magazine show. And we have Chris Howell that's going to be coming up. And he has the golden voice. No, he's not like Luther Vandross kind of. Well, he may sing, I don't know, but he really does a lot of productions in TV and radio. And so he is going to be our guest today. But I've known Chris for a while. The last time I saw him, we were at a podcast conference and we were just running all over the place. He remembers that. And we were like, okay, we've got to do a podcast session together. The last one we did was a long time ago, and he has a lot of updates to give us and share with us as well. But I want to bring him up and we're going to talk about Speakers Magazine. You'll know him from the June issue, from Golden Voice to Global Impact, his inspiring journey. And it really is. So right after this, we're going to bring up Chris Howell. Hey there, Chris.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm always a little nervous when I interview people who are in the industry, and you've interviewed some of the best, like Oprah Winfrey, Joel Osteen. You're also a public affairs contributor in Dallas, where you are NBC affiliate there. So I'm always like, all right.
Whatever. Come on now.
I mean, if you've interviewed Oprah and Joel Osteen, it's like,
no, I'm playing in your wheelhouse today.
I was like, how's he wrong? I mean, that literally sometimes I remember when I was interviewing Ed Gordon, and I was like, and I went to high school with Ed, and I was like, you interviewed OJ. He said, yeah, we see how that turned out, right?
Yeah, but it's always different when you're sitting on this side. It's like, okay, I don't know where this is going to go, but you know what? We're going to pray and we're going to let it go.
We're going to let it go. Well, Speakers Magazine was proud to have you in this issue, and you were also on a digital cover as well. I want to say, from when we did the podcast and we were running around, me, you, and Andrew, we were at the podcast festival. You have lost some weight, sir. Give us the deets on this right here. How did that happen?
I've lost a little bit, and then I went back and found some of it. But it got to a point where, like I said, what they say, you get tired of being sick and tired. And I kept talking about, I had this whole thing at one time going on. It was #Journey with Chris. And, right before the pandemic, man, I had got down to the smallest I've ever, well, I guess I can't say the smallest I'd ever been, but I got back to almost high school size. Wow. And I was like, man, I was really working at that. And then the pandemic hit. And then, of course, like everyone, I picked up some weight. But then I got tired of being sick and tired. So I went back into the gym, started eating a little bit better. And I thought, you know what? Hey, man, we're on a trend now. I was back in the gym the other day. So I was like, I really am trying to stay on top of it.
Yeah, health is wealth. And there's some of the things, too, because when we were down there and I was in Dallas with you, you took us to Kitchen and Cocktails. And, of course, we're down there having, like, the fried chicken and all. Why can't soul food
8 o'clock at night,
like healthy food? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, really? Like, why is it?
It's the comfort thing. We want comfort food. The healthy food is not, it doesn't always taste the best, but it is the best for you. It's always more expensive, so it's even less expensive to eat unhealthy. So we gravitate to those things that, again, not good for us in a lot of ways, because again, we think they bring us comfort, but they don't bring you any comfort at all once you stack on the pounds.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like kale versus macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, which one are you going to go for first? I guess it depends on your goals, right?
We have to retrain our brain. So let's talk about you, because you have an inspiring story. You wrote a book. I want to say the book is called Man Talk. Man Talk,
the hard things men never talk about.
Yes. And that was the first time that we actually met. And so how old is that book roughly?
Ooh, that's, well, you know what? 20 years old. I mean, that was 2004. Yeah, that was 2004. And it was a spinoff from a series that I was doing at the Potter's House. I was fortunate enough to be able to host a series called Man Talk, where we hosted it the second Wednesday of every month, where we brought men together We broke men off from the women. The women went to one part of the church. The men went to another part. And we talked about the practical issues that we as men face. We talked about health. We talked about a man and his money, and we talked about those things. I mean, Bishop Jakes, of course, he had Sunday morning covered. So from the spiritual aspect, the guys were covered there. But it was bringing guys in there and to talk about those practical aspects of life that we really never really deal with and uncover in an all men setting. And many men gravitated to that, wanted to get more of that, and couldn't come to the sessions because either they were at their own church or maybe they didn't go to church at all. So the book gave us an opportunity to bring those conversations to life in another way.
I love that. I love that. Well, one of the things too, women don't mind getting together and talking. We're going to retreat. Right. We'll have all these conferences and things like that. Obviously Jakes is known for Women Thou Art Loose, but you did man talks. How long at the Potter House? How long did you do that?
3.5 years.
3.5 years, consistently every Tuesday.
Every second Wednesday of the month. Every second Wednesday of the month.
That's a commitment. That's a commitment. And then this was 20 years ago. So you were really ahead of your time doing that. And so I was doing a lot of book marketing and before I was really doing a lot of the speakers, but obviously realizing that you got to speak in order for books to sell. So that's really how Speakers Magazine came about. And then you went into, the reason why it's like, okay, well, why is Chris doing this man talk thing at Potter's House? So how long have you been in Potter's House before you started doing that leadership role?
We started the Potter's House December 28th, 1997. So we were there several years before we got, and actually the way that came about is I was serving with the men's ministry. Never got into it to do broadcast or any of that. I was serving with the men's ministry. But then also while serving with the men's ministry since 1999, I had an opportunity to start doing the Potter's House News. So that gave me my first.
How did that come about? I think they heard you and they were like, wait a minute.
No, it was really me challenging. And because I was part of the men's ministry and the Potter's House News always had women that would do the news. And while I appreciated the women doing it, I was part of the men's ministry and knew that there were several other guys who I thought could do a good job at that. Never thought of myself doing it. At the time, I was a district manager for Blockbuster Video. So I wasn't considering doing anything in broadcast. I was in retail. Mm-hmm. So I saw the director of the television department one Sunday after church. And I said, man, I love what the women are doing with the Potter's House News, but we have some men who could do it. So he challenged me and said, why don't you do it? I'm from West Dallas, so you don't challenge me like that. I felt like that was a direct challenge. So I said, okay, I will. What do I need to do? He said, well, go audition. So I went and auditioned for it. I mean, listen to this, Pam. It's just an audition. It's everything. The Potter's House News is it wasn't your traditional news format. This was done Entertainment Tonight style. Again, 20 years ago, where you're standing up, looking in the camera, you're reading from a teleprompter, all these things I had never done. But then you would go and audition for it, and here you are. Now you're doing it.
Wow. So, and then that really led to you doing a radio show.
It absolutely did. I was able to leverage that experience from doing that for over 10 years to leverage that to get a position with 90.9 KCBI, which I will tell you is unheard of. Generally, when you start in radio, you have to go to a smaller market and then work your way back to a market like Dallas. Right. I was able to use that. God allowed that experience to be used from the Potter's House to be able to start here in Dallas. I've only worked in radio in Dallas, top 5 market. So that experience there.
And that leveraged into TV.
You're absolutely right. NBC5. Yeah. Because
So if anybody's listening, you can kind of just plug into what God has for you and just enjoy the ride, because you never know where it's going to end up. And so one of the things too is like he then has this podcast that he does. And the name of the podcast, I didn't write it down.
Principles for Success.
Principles for Success.
Yeah.
And Principles for Success, he has interviewed, obviously Sarah Jakes. I pulled that one up and I sent it to you the other day. And I was like, oh my God.
I think that was over 8-10 years ago, man. It was a long time. But that thing is
Sarah may pay you to put that out of circulation because she definitely look a little different.
That's one of my most watched videos on YouTube. I think it's one of the most we have. I think it's over 256,000 views or something. I mean, it's one of the most watched videos on my YouTube channel. Yeah.
She is powerful. She is powerful no matter what she looks
like. Even then, and so even more powerful now, but even then, she was extremely powerful. So you could see where things were going to go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so one of the things I like that you have shifted, you were a Blockbuster. Obviously, I'm glad that you decided that, you know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a different career. But now,
Some folks are listening now like Blockbuster. What was that?
yeah, Blockbuster, like what? But that was a thing. That was the thing. That's kind of like AI is a thing now. So
Yeah.
you have to be open to trends. But tell us where you are now in terms of Chris Howell Communications, and where you know, someone who wasn't formally, well, you did get formally trained in the radio and TV.
Yeah.
You and your wife, right?
No,
Did
just
both?
myself.
Just okay. So
Yeah.
give us that background of how you decided to go back and get all that, and then where you are now, and some of the awards that you've won
Okay,
in
good deal.
that.
Well,
Mhm.
I will tell you, first of all, dropping out of high school, my wife and I got together at 14, had our third kid by the time we were 18 years old. So you're faced with a position where, yeah, you're, assistant manager at Blockbuster, you're, in high school, ninth grade, 18 years old. What do you do? So I left school and went to work at Blockbuster full time.
Mhm.
And later then became one of the youngest district managers they ever had at 23 years old. That was great experience, great opportunity. But as you stated, again, you could see in 2000 that, things were beginning to change there at Blockbuster. So it's like, hey, man, what are you going to do?
Mhm.
So thankfully, I was able to step away from Blockbuster, did some other things before getting into radio. But it was this, once I left that, I took this news experience that I had from the Potter's House, approached the radio station 90.9 KCBI when I learned that they were hiring. So I started in radio playing music. So I was playing the music, and that's when the station general manager at that time said, hey, you know what? We have a position open in news. Why don't you come and do some stuff in news? So that got me into news, and I spent 7 years of doing that.
Look at God!
Left
Wow.
the newsroom in 2013, and we started Chris Howell Communications at that time. And since that time, God has been blessing ever since. We have clients such as the city of Wilmer, Texas. We have Genuine McCarthy Enterprises, which is a global construction company that builds hospitals and schools, things of that nature. And God has just blessed us to really be able to do a lot of things that we truly enjoy doing, but also get paid to do them.
And it's almost like you do corporate communications for them. So one particular client, I want to say you won an award for. Was it a nonprofit or am I getting that confused with your nonprofit?
Well, I think you can. I won, I guess, Who's Who in Black Dallas. It's the every moment matters award.
Was it a Telly?
The Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce.
Was it a Telly award?
A Telly Award, absolutely. Okay, you're thinking about the documentary. We produced a documentary for Roland Parrish.
Yeah. Well, how we forget about that? Okay.
I didn't know which award we were going to.
Yes, the Telly Award. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal, and we are grateful to the fact, not only for the award, but we had the opportunity to tell a story that Mr. Roland Parrish, who's a McDonald's franchisee here in Dallas, has some 25 McDonald's. He's from Indiana. He's from Hammond, Indiana, and he had been wanting to tell this story of the first Black school teacher in Hammond, Indiana for years. And so we talked about it one day, and I said, we could produce that for you. And we got together and we started doing our research and doing our due diligence on it. And again, we were able to tell that story, put it together in a 45-minute documentary that we were able to take back to Hammond, show there in Hammond to that school teacher and her mom and her family. They were so proud of it. And then we later came back and showed it here in Dallas and just started entering into competitions. And we did. We won a silver and we won a bronze, 2 silvers and 1 bronze Telly Award for that particular project.
Wow. And that was your first documentary. That was it.
That was
the first one.
That was the first. And now we're in conversation with someone else to tell another great story that I really hope we get to tell. It's the Coma Cottrell story. Folks with no Proline, things of that nature. We were talking with Isabel Cottrell about possibly telling the story of her and Coma. Yeah.
That would be really good because a lot of people
I'd
aren't
love to do
familiar
that.
with that. Yeah, a lot of people aren't familiar with it.
They remember the products, but they don't know the story behind the products.
Yeah, that would be really good. So now we're like into filmmaking and documentaries. You're doing corporate videos, you're doing radio, you're doing public affairs. You still do ministry and you speak. So
I see what we do as ministry. I mean, but I'm quick to tell people I'm not a pastor because everywhere I go somewhere for whatever reason, people say you have a preacher's head or something. I'm always thought of as a pastor. I'm not a pastor. I said, let me get the deacon thing right first,
Well, when you sit under someone, under their ministry, like TD Jakes and that sort of thing, their anointing falls on you, whether you're a pastor or not, but you tend to, if you really they're mentoring you, and then you just really take some of their characteristics, I guess you would say. So
Yeah,
Jake's obviously has always been, but he's also a businessman as well. So that's
absolutely.
where people kind of maybe feel that vibe from you, because he's done movies and books and all that kind of stuff. Years ago, I did the promotion for his book, Cover Girls, and then I also did Not Easily Broken
Yeah.
as well. Not the movie, but the book. So people don't realize that Not Easily Broken, that was like the book before. So that's when we were doing, the PR and stuff for Jake's, for those books and things like that.
Absolutely. And I remember that. And that's why when I did my book, I was able to reach out to you because I knew what you had done for him.
I was like, okay, I love books. I love books. Now we also have okay, let's go back to your nonprofit, because
Okay.
you do say that is ministry and that sort of thing. And it kind of reminds me of Tina Polite, which I'll come to later.
Okay.
But everything that you've done in your career, you and your wife have been together how long?
30, 36 years.
36 years. That
Yeah.
is a testimony in itself, by
Yeah.
itself. I've met her, and you guys are a beautiful couple, and it's like, you know, a lot of people probably said that it wouldn't last. Because you were how old when
We
you
were
got
four,
married?
we were 14 years old. I mean, we thought, this is going to be a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. And then we didn't think it would last 36 years, So and we just kept getting up and, and kept,
Yes,
it just kept being there for one another. And you look up and it's 36 years later. And I don't want to, make it sound like it was just, overnight success or something of that nature, but it was a commitment that we made once we got married. We got married at 20 years old. And it was
mhm,
that commitment that, hey, we're going to stay together.
yeah,
We know we're not going to have rough times, but it's none of that. Well, I'm going to go to my mom's house or my dad's house or whatever. No, we're going to stay together. We're going to be committed together. We're going to work things out.
that
And that's worked for us.
that is it. And that is where you were tapped on the shoulder, I would say, to lead the man talk, to really help men understand that kind of commitment at a young age, and then
Yeah.
still staying committed to the same person in marriage and through families and through the good and the bad, better and worse, for
Yeah.
time. And that's a message that is part of what you speak on, as well as speaking on business. So what are some of the favorite topics you like to speak on? I know you and your wife have a nonprofit together, and that came
Yes.
out of what was the idea behind that? Why did you all start that?
Okay, two parts. The first thing is I like talking about overcoming adversity. I like instilling hope and confidence in the fact that, whatever you're going through at this moment, it's not going to last. You can outlast the moment if you just hang in there and don't give up. Don't give up on yourself, because there were many opportunities along the way. Had I given into the situation at hand, I wouldn't be where I am today. So and it was gravitating to messages from others that helped me to maintain the faith, maintain the hope and the confidence that I could get beyond that situation. So as a give back, I like to be able to do that for others. So when you talk about speaking, I see speaking as that opportunity to use my voice to first and foremost say, yes, this is all a part of my past, but it's a part of my past because I maintained the faith and hope and confidence that things would get better and kept persisting to get forward. So I'll
Mhm.
go forward. So I try to do that when I speak. I do try to do that for others.
That
As
is
it relates to the nonprofit is the Chris Howell Foundation.
mhm,
We started that in 2016 because we looked around and we thought, okay, God has given you an opportunity here. You've been on the radio, you're doing some things with television. You've got a little bit of a platform. How do you
mhm.
use that platform and use it responsibly? It wasn't that we had so much money, because it wasn't that at all, but it
You
was
just
that
want
you
the
had
help.
influence. So it's
Mm,
like, how do you use the influence in a way that where you can benefit others? So
yeah.
we looked at two things. Because my wife had lost her mom at 9 years old due to breast cancer, we looked at, do we do something with breast cancer? And then we looked around in the Dallas community at that time, and I've got to do some research, look at where we are today. But Dallas was leading the state in new HIV infection rates. I
Whoa.
lost my brother in 2006 at the age of 33 due to complications of HIV and AIDS.
Mm,
So we thought, let's look at doing something around HIV. So
mhm,
we started doing what you call your Know Your Status Dallas awareness campaign, really in an effort to increase education and raise awareness around the fact that at that time, Dallas was continuing, had been for years, leading the state in new HIV infection rates. So, we're saying, hey, folks, it's 2016, but HIV is still a very dominant force in our community.
mm,
So it was encouraging folks to, if you're going to engage, safely, things of that nature. Really finding ourselves feeling like what we're doing is telling a lot of folks what not to do. So we looked at it a little bit and thought, this is not being received the way we wanted to be received. Yeah, we're making some dents in it because we were also doing testing at the same time, distributing condoms, things of that nature. But we thought, what could we do differently? So then we changed the message to overall health. And we started hosting these health fairs. And that's where folks would come out to get their A1C checked, get their blood pressure checked. Oh, and by the way, we're also doing HIV testing in the back as well.
I love that. Yeah. And encourage people to do mammograms and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Because now you're looking at your overall health and not just this one aspect of it. So it allowed us to really have a wider audience in the community. And then when COVID hit, of course, we started the wider health initiative in 2016. COVID hits in 2020. So now we can't go out and do health fairs anymore. So we're looking at, okay, how can we continue to serve the community at this time? So we then partnered with the USDA to start distributing food boxes. They were doing what they call farmers to family food boxes. We then partnered with them to start distributing those food boxes. And that opened our eyes really to a whole aspect of the community where folks were dealing with hunger. Texas leads the nation really in terms of hunger. And, we talk about things being bigger in Texas. Hunger is not one we want to be bigger in. So we started helping to really do that. And we thought, this food thing is something that we really need to wrap our arms around and try and help as best we can. So we've been doing a lot of food distribution here in the last few years. And that's what a lot of folks came to know us as, the organization that provides food. But we have all those additional wraparound services.
I love that. And that is really like one of the things where I hear everything in alignment for you, Chris, where it's doing the foundation work and the nonprofit work. And then your wife is a whiz at running the foundation. So it's just like she's really good at getting the grants and the partnerships and things like that. So that's a good partnership there. But also, too, because of your platform, you can then bring awareness about the hunger and health, all those other type of things as well. And then eventually it's growing. You're not afraid to change and to really reiterate or to make a bigger impact by moving forward. And that's one of the things that I really like. Because even when I called you and said, hey, let's go to this podcast conference, you're like, I'm down for it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. And it's like, that's part of the alignment of the thing of using your voice, for the good. And that's because other people have spoken to your life. So you feel like I need to speak into other people's lives as well. And that's one of the main things. So we have a mutual friend that Tina Polite and Richard.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's another whole nother thing. They went to the Potter's house, or you all met at the Potter's house. But they have a whole ministry around film, Christian films. And it's just amazing just to see how people have a passion for something and then lean into it and really move forward with that. And so between us, when I realized, I said, do you know Tina? I said, yeah, I know Tina, because Tina used to do PR.
Absolutely.
That's how we met. So it's like, all right, it's a full circle moment here. It's a full circle moment. So what is next for Chris? So you've got the foundation, Chris Howell Foundation. You're doing Chris Howell Communications. Are you still in PRSA and you're still a leader in there as well?
I was on the board of PRSA Dallas. I'm no longer on the board. That you only get this one term, and I did the one term, and I'm done with that one.
Okay.
But I'm still a member of PRSA.
Okay, you still remember that.
Yes.
So what is kind of like the next big thing that you're working on, or that we can support you with, I guess you would say? And I want to put your website up there too. That will make sense as well.
Well, I would say the next big thing that I'm really hopeful for is that we're able to tell the story of Coma Cottrell and Proline. I hope we can really, launch that deal. I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it till we actually sealed it, but because I'm so hopeful, I wanted to at least put it in the air. But we're still, like I said, public relations is that thing we do. You do public relations, we do public relations, but it's really one of the things we really have, like you talked about, being able to reinvent yourself. Because traditional media is becoming increasingly difficult to try and land because of the newsroom directors and things of that nature, we are getting more into the space of video production and using that experience to actually create media for individuals. Because again, it's like, hey man, can you get me on the news? Get me on the news. It's like, yeah, we're going to give it our best shot. We have relationships, we have some opportunities, but a lot of times it just doesn't land. For whatever reason, that story doesn't land. So it's like, let us create media for you. And then we can then put it in some channels that we think will allow you to be able to connect with your audience.
I love that. I'm all for that. That's what Speakers Magazine. We're creating you're owning your own media.
There you go. Yeah.
That is exactly really it. That's the whole reason why we did Speakers Magazine. We got JJ on the cover, and then we've got, she's from Houston. She's on the cover for the month.
Wait, don't go past JJ like that. Let me just say real quick. I didn't mean to cut JJ. She came. I talked to her a couple of weeks ago, man, and she was just such a delight to talk to. She hosted an event here in Fort Worth, Juneteenth. And just to hear all the things that she's doing, I look forward to having a conversation with her as well, a recorded conversation, because I mean she's doing some great things.
She is
around financing, and I like that, because that's economic empowerment is the only way we're really going to have to stop doing food distribution and all those other things where we can empower individuals. We don't want to put a Band-Aid on a problem. We want to put folks in power to be able to help other folks. Once they've gotten beyond their situation, they can go back and reach back and help someone else. So the things that she's doing, I'd like to be able to partner with her to see how we can bring those into some of the communities that we work in.
That is so true. She was, when she left the Air Force, she was a lieutenant colonel. She retired. She was in physics, doing all the stuff that I don't even understand she's talking about. But she left the Army and went home, and her husband had really left her, like it was her and her son, $800,000 in debt.
Wow.
And she dug herself out of it the old-fashioned way. No bankruptcy, but she learned, and that's how she learned about the financial strategies. And now she's also a minister as well, because she couldn't have done it without God. So JJ is powerful. She is powerful, and she's the June issue where Chris is in as well. I wanted you in that issue with her because I know that you all will partner on some things, because the economic plight for African Americans, especially this year, has, with the, anti-DEI atmosphere, is really hurting a lot of people. And then the Medicaid is going to go, it does hurt a lot of poor people, but specifically a disparity. It's a lot of African American people too. So we want to make sure that is done. And I'm glad that you all connected with that. So we've got we've got a few minutes. I want people to go to Chris Howell Communications. What kind of speaking engagements are you seeking or taking now? Are they mostly in churches, or are you doing workshops? Are you doing virtual webinars? Are you creating your own webinars? What's going on? Or are you looking for podcast guests?
You just loaded up there. Okay, let's do this. Certainly looking for podcast guests. And again, when we talk about principles for success, it's about folks coming on and sharing those principles that allow them to obtain the success that they have, in hopes that someone else can hear those things and then get to where they're trying to get to. And when you talk about speaking engagements, I prefer now to really be able to try and speak with business owners, because again, to the thing you talked about earlier with the DEI movement or anti-DEI movement, things of that nature, it's really impacting small businesses. And as a small business owner who's been in business over 12 years now, understanding how that impact is affecting us, but how you talked about earlier, you have to be able to reinvent yourself and be able to present yourself in a different way to be able to stay in business for yourself. Because I believe if we can connect with leaders, then those leaders have a following, and they can then have greater impact within our communities. It's kind of like you talked about with JJ. She could have easily just took that information and said, hey, I'm just going to go on and do my own thing. My son and I will be, live happily ever after. But no, she said, I'm going to reach back and see if I can't pull some other people, out of that same situation. So that's what I prefer to be able to do. Speak with leaders who can then go back and reach people and then pull other people up.
Yeah, that's really like the main thing, that we have to pay it forward. It's a community. We have something in common. I have Speakers Magazine is unapologetic for Black speakers. And so I want us to help each other, pull each other up. I don't believe in the crab in the barrel type of thing. You do PR if there's something that, and I want to say too, that you have done this. You said, hey, Pam, let's partner on this particular project. And I had a chance to work with you and one of your clients and things like that. Yeah. And that was fun. I mean, it is one of the things that's going to bring us up. That we have to collaborate. And this was before, what's going on economically now and politically. This was like what you do. So I just really appreciate that you're doing those kind of things. And, people can go to Chris Howell Communications. He wants to speak to business owners. You could probably do trainings and workshops. Absolutely. But really the main thing, he does a lot of corporate communications, video production, helping people with if they want to set up a podcast. That's a really, really big thing. There's so many podcasts, but there have to be good podcasts. You got to know the right
Yeah.
lighting, you got to have the right mic. I like your mic over there. You know, it's just it's those kind of things. And I remember sometimes I was like, you want to do a podcast? I said, but your lighting is bad. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not lit. It's like one side of your face is dark, the other side is light. It's like, oh, okay. So those are the small things that we see.
Yes.
But we can teach as well. So that's one of the things we
Absolutely.
want to make sure that people do that. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining Speakers
No, thank
Magazine.
you.
And this has been, I mean, like one of the bright spots of today. I knew that we had this thing that was coming up, and I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna talk to Chris. But I just really, really appreciate it because it's been just a joy. You know, you energize me. It's like one of those things where it's like Chris energizes me. It's like I gotta talk to Chris, you know. So it's like, okay.
Well, I appreciate that. And you do the same for me, and you keep me on my toes. I mean, I know you got to jump here, but again, thank you for always reminding me and extending invitations to various things like, hey, man, you're going to go to this? And like, I hadn't planned on it, but since you mentioned it and you're going to be there, yeah, I'll be there.
Yes. We got to stay on top of these things because listen, AI is here and it is not going away. And so we got to stay on top of it. You've been in business 12 years. I've been in business like 25 years. And listen, it's not slowing down, it's speeding up. And we got to stay on top of it. And so by really saying, hey, are you aware of that? Let's figure out a way to do this. That's how people grow. And being in communities and things like that, joining groups like PRSA or even NSA or Black Speakers Network, those kind of things. You need to stay connected to it. If you want to speak, join a speaker group. That's one thing. You want to do PR, join a PR group.
That's the way to do it, right?
Right. It is.
You can't sit around and hope for it.
You got to be around those type of people. So that's one of the main things. So thank you so much for joining us today, Chris Howell, ChrisHowellCommunications.com. I'm Pam Perry, and I will thank you all for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.